Well, hey, thanks for watching Takeaway, a weekly conversation with the leadership team here at Silverdale, where we talk about our takeaways from the weekend message. And I'm super excited to be with my friend, Sydney.
Special. So excited to be here, man.
Special.
Been looking forward to it.
Oh, you are special in a good kind of way. I know people can take that in other ways. Well, that's special.
Hey, yes, I take that in a great way.
So if you don't know Sydney, I think by the end of this video, you're going to want to know Sydney because she's amazing. Sydney, you wear a number of hats around here at Silverdale.
Sure do.
In the worship and student ministry areas. Tell us a little bit about what all you do here.
So I do student ministry, music, college ministry, music, and then I serve on the weekends as well. So Vive, Via, and good old Sunday morning, big church. And I love all of it. I love all of it so much. It's the best job in the world as far as I'm concerned.
I'm right there with you. It is the best job in the world.
I think so.
And so you're married?
Yes.
And tell a little bit about that.
So I've been married for 3.5 years to Drake Barker. He is the kindest, most wonderful. He plays guitar at Creekside. He's the dude with really long curly hair. So you can't miss him, truly.
Great guy. Incredible musician. We're truly blessed to have both you and him leading us in worship today because I love your heart. I love your take on life. And I think that's just going to show up here as we talk today about this past sermon.
It can't not.
So Tony preached a message called A Song of Glory. Now, maybe you heard one of our other pastors. I know several who watch Pastor Travis, and we learned about Psalm chapter 8 this weekend. Mm-hmm. Tony's message was called A Song of Glory, and I love this psalm. This has been one of my favorite psalms for a number of years, and it may be because it's connected to some of the songs that I know, the contemporary Christian songs throughout the generations and all.
Yep.
So in your role in leading worship, how has this mixtape series just gone over in your mind and in leading worship?
Dude, I'm telling you, like no joke, Tony doesn't miss. Like he does not miss. The Together series was so fantastic because we talked about small group and the need for community and all that kind of stuff. So we're talking about, I feel like, in our worship, grow, serve, core value thing, Together was a lot about grow, about like being in a small group and being connected to community. And then we like went straight out of that into this mixtape series, which is all about worship and like literally having week after week after week on this emphasis of the role of singing, the role of worship, the role of gathering with the church to proclaim truth about God has been incredible. Like it's been so good. And like no joke, every single week, what I've loved about knowing like where he's going in each chapter is that I have the chance to like go and study those chapters beforehand. And so I'm kind of walking into each week knowing a little bit more about what we're talking about. And then, man, just like how much Tony can pack into a message is just absolutely incredible to me. So this week was no different. It was the thing that I thought of was, so growing up, we were a family of 7, 5 kids and 2 parents. And so like, imagine what our car looked like getting ready to go to the beach. So if you like,
what does a family of 7 drive?
Just at the time we drove an Astro,
I mean, wow,
a big old Astro van. Yeah. And so like loaded up with all the people, all the stuff, all that kind of stuff. That is the mental image that I get on how much Tony can like just pack into, and Travis and Randy too. Like, just talking about this week, though, he can pack so much into.
It's super exciting.
It's
really a blessing. It's a fun ride every Sunday.
Oh.
When I walk into worship here, and working here, we do get to experience the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
We see what life is like here before we're on stage, or for me on camera, and then before Tony preaches. We have all the conversations leading up to that, all the planning meetings, and then the early mornings. Because what time do you get here on Sunday mornings?
Around like 6:15.
Yeah, so it's pretty early, right?
Pretty early.
Pretty early. And so I don't get here quite that early anymore. I did for a little bit, but I'm not right now. It's more like 7. Yeah, I get here about 7.
That's nice.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
But so we see all the behind the scenes, the before the service stuff. And so it's just a fun ride from the beginning all the way through it, getting ready for it, walking into the room and going through worship, including the music, the prayer, and it all builds up to an incredible message where God just speaks to us every single week.
Yeah.
And I love that. And this week, Tony talked about, again, Psalm 8, and he talked about how in point 1, God created the universe effortlessly. And one of the illustrations he used, he talked about God creating with, his fingertips, and he used that illustration of a child finger painting.
Yeah.
It's just the finger play of God. I thought, oh my gosh, there's a verse, I think it's in Isaiah, which talks about how God can measure the universe from the span of his hand. It's like from here to here. He's so big and he's so amazing. And that creation is just finger play.
Yeah. The simplest of forms of art,
Yes.
Ugh.
Yes. And yet among creation, he has placed a special kind of love on us. And just to have that reminder this weekend for me was huge.
Huge. One of the things that I love about learning about the character of God is that there's like 2 sides to every coin. So like a great example is like the lion and the lamb. God is the lion and he is also the lamb. He is like strength and power and might. And he is also like gentleness and kindness and meekness. He is both.
Yes.
Not one or the other, not some of, he is both. So in the same way, this message from this week and even the story that I referenced in the little story about flying and seeing the glory of God in the sky is both of those examples that God is immensely creative and enormous and on this scale that we cannot imagine, light years and light years and light years. But he also like designed us and like designed flowers and, all this small beauty that there's just the scale of everything is so immense to me that he cares about the big things, but he also is so like in the details of everything.
Absolutely. You said that so well.
And I feel like you miss out on who God is if you focus on one and you leave the other behind.
Well, no, that's a good point. That's a really good point too. You just talked about the splendor and the magnificence of God, and that's so good. And to remember that he's both and.
Yes.
And you can't over focus on, we shouldn't over focus on God's, this character or this attribute of God in detriment to this other one. I love the way you said that. I love the way you said that. So one of the things that I've loved about this series too, as you're leading worship, is every week there has been a hymn. And I've heard several of you say the same thing, that you love the hymns.
Oh, me too.
Have you enjoyed that? Because you're a different generation than me. When I think playlists, I probably think a whole nother thing than you, because I made the mixtapes. You probably never did you?
I never did make
Are you a
the
playlist
mixtapes.
person?
I am big playlist person, huge playlist person. Just
so
like
it's
my
very
brother.
retro, the whole cassette. You never had that experience?
No, I did have it. So my like the car that I drove was a 2004. So I had a cassette tape thing in there.
Yes.
I had one Bob Seger cassette tape that I would throw in, but it also had a CD changer. So I had a lot of mixed CDs.
Gotcha.
I would use those.
Gotcha.
But no, back to the hymn thing. I have loved it. I am very much an old soul. So if you get to know me, I love old music. Like I like new music too. No shame on that. But like the hymns speak to me. Like it's what I grew up singing. We would listen to, Gaither vocal band and the cathedrals in the family car.
Oh, I love it. Wow.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. I love singing songs. What is the coolest thing to me? The coolest thing to me is getting to every once in a while when I can muster it up, open my eyes to look out at the congregation when we're singing those hymns, and just like seeing the way that it's touching people, seeing the way that it's speaking to people is so, so encouraging to me. It's literally leading me in worship when we're singing those songs, because it's like, there are certain songs that speak to you, you know, like there are certain songs that remind you of a time and a place in your life when God did something powerful.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to sing these older songs and see this generations above me that are like so touched by the words and the way that we're singing it. So it's been super encouraging to me. I also think it's just great to, as a young person, maybe this will restore some hope in my generation. I think it's so important for us to rub shoulders with like old books and old music and because it gives you a better perspective on that people have been following God for a lot longer than I've been alive, you know, and learning about who he is and all that.
Absolutely.
Kind of stuff. So,
you know, I was thinking about that the other day. I mean, even here in our church, you know, I'm 45, and there were people here at Silverdale during the Great Depression.
Yeah.
There were people, and maybe some of you that were here and remember clearly the civil rights movement, that remember the Vietnam era that went through. In fact, the video, the Veterans Day video that we just recently shot and is on YouTube, you need to check that out if you haven't. It's a fantastic video.
Yeah.
Tells a story of faith and just through that. But all through the generations and before World War I and getting back into the late 1800s, there were people right here who loved Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think it is helpful to, I mean, I love history and just to sort of, I like your example of rubbing shoulders with those who have come before us to help maybe spur us on in our faith as we go forward.
Yes. Yes. And I think there's something especially unique about singing the same words that someone's saying hundreds of years ago. So fun fact, I did some research on the song that we sang this last Sunday, Praise to the Lord. Okay. Didn't know that one. That one escaped me. I did not learn that one growing up, but I was interested in it. So I did some research. It was written, I don't want to ruin the details on this, but I know it was written in the 1600s by this German guy who actually died when he was 30 of tuberculosis, but had already penned like a ton of these hymns to God. So he wrote that one. It gained a lot of popularity after his death. And then it wasn't translated into English until like the mid 1800s by this lady from England that translated it. And we're still singing it today.
We're still singing it today.
That blows my mind. Like that blows my mind that we're singing the same words that someone wrote in 1645, and like they felt that way about God, and I feel that way about God too. You know, like that is very touching. So
I asked a few weeks ago when Haley was here, she did a video. I asked her the question I'm about to ask you. And after we shot the video, she said, I thought you were asking me to sing at first.
Okay, I watched it and I thought you were asking her to sing. No joke. I was like, oh gosh.
I'm not about to ask, sorry, Haley, I'm not about to ask you to sing, but in a similar vein, in a similar idea, you have a microphone.
I do.
And you're a worship leader here. And you have a moment right now to share your heart about worship here at Silverdale. So what would you want to tell? I know you haven't had time to prepare for this, right? But in the moment, what would you want to tell all of us about worship? Because worship takes all forms, right? All kinds of forms. The sermon preached is worship. The prayer prayed is worship. But the music sung certainly is worship. So what would you want to tell us?
So one of the things that I do say to my people is that worship is the way that you live, not the song that you sing. So yes, worship is much outside of just 1 hour on a Sunday. Even when Jesus is talking to the Samaritan lady, she's trying to pin worship down to like a time and a place. Like she's like, you know, do we worship here or there? And Jesus answers her not directly. He's like, you know, a time is coming and is yet not here when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. So he doesn't lock it down to a time and a place. It is your lifestyle. But what I would say about like worship through singing is two things. on your own, in your personal life, singing is one of the most powerful tools you have in your tool belt of faith that helps you to fix your eyes on Jesus. It is one of the most powerful tools that you have to, when you're in the car by yourself, sing, like when you're fearful to sing. That's something that my mom taught me when I was really little, when I was afraid at night or whatever. We would sing, Jesus, 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 there's just something about that name. I still do that when I'm afraid or when I'm hurt or when I'm sad. That is the song that I sing because that's the song that comes to my heart. So in your own personal life, singing is one of the most powerful tools that you have. When we gather with our church family, when we gather with the family and the people of God, and we corporately proclaim truth about who God is and what he has done, there is something that is so transformative about that, like, yes and amen. Like, we're all agreeing on this thing. Yes, we can disagree on a ton of stuff, but we agree on this. We agree that there's nothing that God can't do. We agree that he is good and mighty and powerful. And so anyway, I think in both places, in both ways, you are best served to sing. You are best served to sing aloud.
I love that.
Oh.
I love that. See, I told you at the beginning of this that if you don't know Sydney, you're going to want to get to know Sydney. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for the spirit you bring to, and the attitude you bring to your leadership here as you lead us in worship. So thank you.
I love it. I love it. I love everything that we do. And man, it is a gift and it is a joy to be able to gather and to sing. It is the joy of our lives, right?
It is. It is. Thank you.
Oh,
hey, if you haven't yet seen the message on Psalm 8, you can certainly watch that on our YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Facebook, I would encourage you to check out our YouTube channel and watch the message on Psalm 8. Or listen to it on our church podcast. If you didn't know, we have a church podcast. You can subscribe to that through Spotify or wherever you subscribe to podcasts. So subscribe to YouTube, subscribe to podcast, and check out some of the other playlists and things that we have. There's so much great content to help you grow in your faith. Again, thanks so much for being here.
So glad to be here.
And you have a great week.